relentless Ryan Joyce, because it's not been a good year for him. Not been a good year for his fellow Geordie Callan Rids either. He'll round off the afternoon session against Stephen Burton, a player looking for his first ever Euro Tour win, just as Daniel Klose is. But as you say, Vitezslav Sedlak, a man who has tasted victory on the European Tour, the player from the Czech Republic coming through the East European qualifier.
Not the first time he's done it this year as well. And sometimes those qualifiers can be long days. So I've got a couple of names in the early portion of that qualifier that we know quite well. We know a little bit more about Dalibor Smolik now. We know plenty about Roman Bonetsky, who took out Gary Anderson earlier this year on a European Tour stage. And we know a little bit more about Vitezslav because he started with his first maximum in his first couple of visits. Warning sent to Daniel Klose.
150.
Yeah, Vita's been playing a lot of darts this year. He's one of the players who's played in the Battery Farm darts down in Portsmouth. He's been trying to qualify for these, and obviously he's making his third appearance on the European Tour. So he looks like someone who's trying to give it a go and see what he can do. Daniel Klose, been around for a while, had a good campaign on the Challenge Tour last year, but he's got his tour card now. And while for many players that is the promised land, it is also a land fraught with danger. As he's found this year, he has only managed to make it past round 1, never round 2 in a ranking event.
Yeah, 7 times he's made round 2, but not made round 3 yet. I will always remember one of the first things that Daniel told me when I met him. He played a bit of darts down in Portsmouth, and he was really good. He said it felt easy, because when he compared it to the PDC Europe Super League, he said, that was nothing compared to what we do in Germany. So you give him a marathon race, and he's very good. But you need to be a good sprinter in this format.
Double top for the opening leg.
46.
Can't check out.
Daniel require 90.
Klose has given himself a chance. On the 20s. Leaves the ball.
54.
Well, both getting darts for 15 darters.
20. After the first leg.
What a lovely dart that is from Vitezslav Sedlak. We're seeing more Czech players now than we ever have.
Game on.
And don't say you weren't warned. When we started going to Czechia back in 2019 at what was the hottest tournament that everybody's been at, we started to ask around, where are the next players coming from? And our good friend Pavel Korda just said, there are plenty. I believed him, but now we're seeing more of them qualify through Eastern European qualifiers, more getting tour cards, more making names for themselves, and there are still more to come. I love what's happening in Central Europe with darts right now because they're making their presence felt, and that's what we want.
Yeah, well, Sedlak, he's only really a player we've seen over the last year and a half. Got a first glimpse of him at that Czech Darts Open, not that particular one, 2019, it was the one last year. He did beat John Worsley in his opening game, before losing out to MVG. Took a couple of legs off Van Gerwen, though.
And he knows a thing or two about hot tournaments because he played in Graz earlier this year.
3 legs off Chris Dobie.
100.
Any thoughts on his walk-on song?
Well, it's catchy. It's that sea shanty business, isn't it?
That's right.
You know, that thing that was a popular meme for about 2 months, quite a long while ago. Yeah, Vita's bringing it back, apparently.
We'll see what it's like for the German fans singing that tomorrow if they take out, or if he takes out a German today. So maybe that's a good thing that he's playing a German player on Friday instead of Saturday. Maybe a little bit easier to defeat them because you don't have to defeat the crowd as well.
Yeah, not many in this afternoon, fair to say. There'll be, I'm told, around 1,300 tonight. Good crowds tomorrow, and then okay stuff. It's not going to be the huge crowds we've seen on some of the European Tour events we've had this year. But there'll certainly be an atmosphere from tonight onwards. What will keep this lively, though, is what's at stake.
Vitezslav
Daniel Klose looking for a first win on the Euro
155.
Tour. Sedlak will view this as a massive opportunity to reach the second round again. And then some big, big games in terms of the qualifying for the match play on the way today.
I just wonder if this game brings its own type of pressure.
Daniel, you require 44.
Because if you get someone like a Brendan Dolan this afternoon, you think, well, I know I'm going to have to play well here. Because he's done this and he's worn the T-shirt. But seeing this draw, they might think, you know what? I'm expected to win this game.
Well, I think Daniel Klose, as you say, it's only his second appearance on the Euro Tour, but he's the tour card holder. Now, I don't know what the bookies made this. They might have made Sedlak a narrow favourite, I would think. But Klose's coming into this going, hang on, I'm the tour card holder. I'm the man to beat here. And that's not a feeling he'll have had very often playing PDC darts. Certainly not on the full circuit.
Well, his nickname is Dan the Man.
140.
A very deliberate style that he has, but every dart is repetitive. It is the same. It's rhythmic as well. It might not be the most eye-catching of throws because it's not quick. Hang on a minute. He was on it. I really thought he was going to get that second 180 as well.
Flying at Daniel Klose in this third leg, Vitezslav Sedlak. 5 perfect darts. If Klose could fill it up, he's level with him. Yet he's not a million miles away from the player who kicked things off with a victory, Ryan Joyce, in that throwing action, is he? He's got very high, he sort of almost looks like he's going to throw it from the centre of his forehead and then does drop it down into his eye line.
Yeah, that's what Martin Schindler does as well.
123.
It's not something you would necessarily coach, but if you can have comfort with that high address position, that's okay. It's a very loopy throw. I'm not entirely certain if he's more comfortable stacking them on top of each other for scoring or indeed trying to get them underneath. He might have the skill to do both. Tops. Sedlak looking good.
That is a brilliant leg of darts. 11 darter from Vitezslav Sedlak.
Game on.
There was a young girl in the crowd there just clapping away.
As she should. 11 dart.
Fantastic.
137.
It's going to be hot in here over the next few days, as it always is at this time of year. Going back to 2019 in Prague, that was the tournament, of course, where Jamie Hughes won the tournament to make the match play. I wonder if something like that could happen again.
Well, we showed you the qualifying standings in the Pro Tour qualifiers. So the top 16 in the world are all going to be there in Blackpool. But then it's the 16 players on the one-year list based on these events and the Players' Championship events. So what you should have in theory are the 16 best and the 16 best form players over the last year.
This is a really interesting camera angle that we have in close-up from the side. Look at the dart when it comes back towards Daniel Klose's face. It's vertical.
Yeah.
That's very unusual.
And that means that his wrist has got to really sort of snap forward during the throwing action, which you would think...
140.
Well, I mean, they're going pretty flat, so it's a curious action. You would think there's things that can go wrong there.
Whereas Sedlak, bringing it back towards the cheek, it's the kind of thing that you want to see. It's very typical of a good player. Very little wrist movement. Nice right angle with the set position, but that extension of the arm, bringing it back, and that dart is vertical, and that wrist action is vital to his success.
44.
Well, can't respond with an 11 darter of his own, but he's left himself on tops after 4 visits to the board. And it's a good standard, this. Both players averaging in the high 90s right now. Between a guy who's won once on the Euro Tour and a guy who's won nothing on the Euro Tour.
I've seen Daniel play best of 7 darts many times, and I've seen him average high. Just because Daniel's season has only yielded an 89 average. Don't let that fool you. He does have a high level, but maybe he doesn't bring it out as often as he should.
Yeah, well, we've seen him this year. I mean, one of those second round games that he obviously ended up losing because he hasn't gone beyond round 2 in the Players' Championship Series. He did average close to a ton. It was just Martin Schindler who averaged close to 104 who beat him. 6-4 in that one. But we have seen him go...
48.
He averaged more than 100 in winning his first round game in the 5th Players' Championship event. He's often capable of being in the 90s and mid-90s. So he can be very, very competitive. He just hasn't had one day yet that he can point to, apart from maybe qualifying for this, where he can say, I've won game after game after game, and I've actually achieved what I wanted from the day.
96.
Speaking of that qualifying, he beat Adam Warner by 6 legs to 3, and then squeaked through against a certain Andrew Gilding, but he's still here.
Yes, a couple of withdrawals this weekend.
100.
Gerwin Price, who has evidently decided, I've got enough money, I don't need to do this. And Jim Williams, who I'm told has a shoulder problem, but it is a real blow for the Quiff, because he's missed 2 or 3 Euro tours in which he could have played this year, as well as some Players' Championship things. He could be in the mix for the match play, but he's not. He might miss out on the European Championship. How about this? Double 8 for another brilliant leg from Vitezslav Sedlak. Oh, 1-2-7 and game. Yeah, even the medics nodding.
Second leg is Daniel to throw first.
How well is he playing on his own throw? 16, 11, 12. That is really, really good. Sub 40 for 3 legs is always world class.
Yeah, and that means that the average from Vitezslav Sedlak right now is close to 106. This is something we haven't seen from the Czech players yet.
But on his own throw, he's 116. Try and break that if you can. Well, breaking it down, for example, when someone is averaging 13 darts on their throw,
140.
you're having to find that 12 darter. And Daniel's best leg so far, 13. He's going to have to improve on that if Vitezslav continues the way he is.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Does Vitezslav continue in this fashion until the end of the game?
He's a Challenge Tour player, of course. Has played 35 matches on the Challenge Tour this year, averaging just shy of 87.
55.
He's had a quarter-final this year. Some other decent runs. A couple of last 16s. Losing out to the likes of Sebastian Białowski of Poland. And to a certain
59.
Harry Ward as well. Big H has been playing some good second-level darts this year.
Yeah, nice to see Big H back playing darts. Wasn't sure we'd ever see that. For the 20s.
96.
Can't get the treble, but Klose coming under pressure on his own throw.
I didn't quite catch what that walk-on song was for Daniel.
Something German, I think.
Yeah. I thought he might have gone for Closer Than Close by Rosie Gaines, was it? Just an idea, Daniel.
Well, I can tell you, Vitezslav Sedlak's highest average on record was in qualifying for this event.
58.
When he beat Alexander Masek, admittedly a name I don't know anything about, but he beat him averaging just over 105. He's been in that ballpark. It's dropped a little over the last leg or so, but this is as good as we've seen from Vitezslav Sedlak.
152.
When you do register that big average, sometimes it needs a shot like this to be put in the middle. It's not going to happen. But if he can shrink it to double 6 or something like that,
140.
which he does, that makes this 88 so much harder.
Couldn't take out 90 in the first leg. That was to break. Needs 88 to hold. Problem. 17s. Gets the treble. Does he save himself? Oh, it's nowhere near.
One good dart out of 3. That's what that was all about. 2 6s. Just looks really strong at the minute. Playing at a very good level.
Vitezslav to throw first.
He's maintaining that average over 100, like Dan mentioned. And at the minute, he looks too strong for Daniel, who may go away from the European Tour with a second loss in his career. And there are plenty of people here this afternoon, Dan, who have tasted either little success or no success before.
And the likes of Connor Scott, Stephen Burton, yet to win on the Euro Tour. Darrell Pilgrim making his debut, so obviously he doesn't have a win. There are players like Graham Hall, who's only got the one win, and indeed Vitezslav Sedlak.
96.
So there's a lot of greenhorns up on that stage this afternoon, as well as the likes of Brendan Dolan, Mickey Mansell, who've been there, done it.
That's such a lovely angle for Vitezslav to attack that first dart. He only walks away with a ton. He won't be happy with that, but when you see darts going in at that angle, it's a sign that someone's got a lovely throw and that they're in form. I think we can say that Sedlak is in form on his journey to where he wants to be over the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, there's no question that Vitezslav Sedlak is going to have to get better as a darts player if he harbours ambitions to be on the tour and successful on the tour and make it work. But what we're seeing is that in quite a short space of time, it's less than 2 years since we first saw him. It's only just over a year, really. That Vitezslav Sedlak is improving. Not dramatic. He's not gone back, but he's improving. And this might be a victory and a ton average from Sedlak if he keeps on going the way he's going. Another in there to get to a finish. That'll do it. He's looking solid. He's looking convincing. Looks likely.
And every time we look at that angle, we're seeing a dart that either hits the 60 or narrowly misses. His heat map around that bed has been exceptional in this game.
And the darts are going in uniformly. They're going in with authority. He's only missed one dart at double. But there is pressure on this. Daniel Klose is going to get a chance at a potentially awkward 79 to break back and throw this game into flux. Brilliant dart from Sedlak.
Clean as a whistle.
120.
Safe and sorry.
It makes you smile.
79.
Instead of making yourself grimace at possibly busting that 140. That was a good dart from Vitezslav. This is a big, big moment. Tops.
39.
Way over the bar, and Sedlak for double 10 and a third 16 darter of this game.
For 5-2. And the Czech is in control. He is 5 out of 6 on the doubles. And he has now got a firm grip on this game. And you do wonder, with Daniel Klose, that dart at tops, he's missed it so high, it may be a reaction to dragging one so low on the double 18 in the previous leg.
140.
To win 4 straight legs from here. It's a big ask. Best leg of the match for Daniel, a 13 darter, and that seems like a long time ago. That was back in leg 4.
The worst leg of darts in this match was Daniel Klose's first leg. That was an 18 darter. Shows you how consistent Vitezslav has been. 3 16 darters and 11 and a 12. Obviously the 11 and 12 are brilliant legs, but the 16s, that's just he's been his base level in this game.
In a funny sort of way, it feels like Klose has been better on the treble 19 in this game than the treble 20. Every time he switches, he's always coming up with something.
59.
But the last thing you want to do when you've got this 3-leg cushion here and you are on the cusp of the victory is to slow down and think that you've done the job. You have to maintain the intensity that you've had throughout. More treble 19 action.
83.
And that's the worst dart he's thrown all match at that segment.
Well, he's played better than on his Euro Tour debut when he was beaten by Keegan Brown in Sindelfingen 4 years ago. But he's run into an excellent Vitezslav Sedlak. It isn't over yet, but it's going to take quite the turnaround.
I mentioned that the winner of this one takes on Joe Cullen, the number 14 seed.
65.
Cullen's the kind of player in this tournament who would like to have a deep run, if not another win on the European circuit, just to make that seeding a bit smaller.
Well, he talked earlier on this year in Munich when he won a thriller of a game with Ross Smith that he was feeling the pressure of trying to protect his ranking.
117.
17 and tops. Combo finish. Missed low once, missed high once. And takes it out this time. The radar's calibrated. Daniel Klose gets one of the 4 consecutive legs he needs.
His doubling hasn't been shocking. 3 hits from 7. It's what you would expect from these players. Maybe a little bit above. But if you're 43% in your doubles for the season, you're world class. But in games like this where your opponents hit 5 from 6, you've got to be a little bit better.
Sedlak has given up very few opportunities. The only dart he missed was his first dart at double in the match, in the very first leg. And then he came back and took it out in the next visit when Klose missed the bullseye.
90.
Since then, he has been flawless on the doubles.
Sedlak has not lost his throw. He's been so good when he
96.
started. This is another decent effort when he started again. 265 after 6. He will use the 19s with his next visit. But under what pressure?
$83.
Not quite enough, I think. It's a very unusual atmosphere here for a Friday afternoon. You could hear a pin drop out there. It's almost like being in a Players' Championship style event with a stage. And you've got to play that for what it is. Sedlak leaves 1-3-2 again. This time he'll get a shot.
Well, he shouldn't really be looking at the
78.
bullseye. Just take the ton.
132.
That would be my advice. Well, he's made it a bit tricky, but he's doing the right thing. Well, he's moved left and found the right-hand side, so I think he's actually hit a bit he's not going for, but it still worked out because everything Vitezslav Sedlak has touched so far in this game has turned to gold. He has not missed a dart at double since the very first leg, his first attempt at double. Can he make it 6 consecutive doubles hit in a row to pick up just his second victory on the European Tour?
40.
What a performance from the Czech player on the doubles. We may not see a better performance than that all tournament long. Sedlak, too good for Daniel Klose, and the average is in excess of 102. He's going to be a very, very happy man for the rest of Friday. He doesn't look very happy. Why is he shaking his head? That's the best performance we've seen from him on stage. And I think Joe Cullen, if Sedlak plays like that tomorrow, may have a little bit on his plate. Feel happy, Vitezslav. You've just had your best performance on the European Tour stage to date. But as far as Daniel Klose is concerned, he's eliminated. We've got more coming your way after this with a great encounter, all Dutch with Kist against Van Veen.